Yes, sir. Yes, you are now listening to the sound of sports reports as ordered. And what has been ordered is the even kill. Texas born, Virginia bred, representing New Jerusalem. Come up front and center and get his flowers because he chose the Minnesota Timberwolves to get rid of the champs. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight. He is Mr. Logic. And while we giving him his props, we ain't gonna act like I ain't say Dallas in 6. Because I am your resident statistician. Going southpaw so much you thought I was left-handed. Had to switch it up on you. You know what I'm saying? Throwing them crosses and them hooks. Ask Tyson Fury about it. Like, review, subscribe. We got a whole lot of NBA playoffs to break down. So join us on this journey as we kick it off with Get It Off My Chest. So, Mr. Logical, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to talk about it. You know, unfortunately, Kendrick Perkins beat me to the punch, you know, because I was thinking about this when I woke up this morning, and then I was sitting at my desk and I got on Twitter and he said, not verbatim, but he said a lot of where I wanted to go. So over the last couple of years, I can't deny there has been a lot of anonymity in the NBA draft. You know, a lot of players that we have no background on. Even myself as the college guy, I know names. I know who Ron Holland is, but I ain't seen him play. You know what I'm saying? I know the name Alexander Sarr. I know Zachary Rizache. You know, I know these names. I know that the two Frenchmen are going to go 1 and 2 in the draft more than likely. But a lot of people don't have that knowledge. So part of why we don't have that knowledge we talked about last year is because we grew up watching people like Jamal Mashburn, Grant Hill, playing multiple years in college. We got to grow up with them. So when they came to the NBA, we were all aboard. Now you got these players coming in after 1 year, nondescript. So to fill in those gaps, a lot of people rely on entities like ESPN, Fox, CBS to give us background on these players. But they just want to talk about LeBron James Jr., the dude that nicknamed himself after a paper towel because he didn't want to have his daddy's name. And we don't even know if he's going to get drafted or not. Scouts are saying that he didn't look ready. He had flashes. You know, he hit 19 out of 25 from 3 with nobody in his face. You know, he jumped 40 and a half inches, which was second or third best in the combine. But I saw Hakeem Warwick and Stromile Swift jump a lot too. You know what I mean? But we're focusing on, is Team X going to draft him so they can get his daddy? And we're not talking about Kai Simpson. We're not talking about Cody Williams. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about some of these basketball players that even went to universities like Duke. We're not talking about McCain because it's all about Bronny. And then people are going to sit up here. These guys are going to get drafted in the top 15. Nobody's going to know who they are. And we're just going to be sitting there draft night to see if Paper Towel got drafted or not.
They keep calling this young man Paper Towel, though. That's hilarious.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just don't. I don't know what people want because, like people like me, we say what we say because we feel what we feel. Other people say the same things that I say but they still watch the nonstop coverage while complaining about it. The difference is that I stand on my square and I don't watch that shit.
Started on show.
I go research about these other players.
Literally started on show because of it. Yeah.
Just like Donovan Clingan, right? From UConn. You remember the big man from UConn. Everybody was talking about how athletic he is, how he's going to change the game defensively. You know what happened at the combine? Zach Edey performed better athletically. But Donovan Clingan is a top 5, top 7 pick. And they saying Zach Edey might be a second rounder. That could be a conversation.
Yeah, we had this conversation before.
Well, not us, but I'm talking about them. Yeah. I'm talking about them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, Zach Edey only won back-to-back National Player of the Year, you know?
Yeah, he swept most of the Player of the Year awards for 2 years.
Right, but we're talking about whether the Atlanta Hawks are going to take paper towel at number 1 so they can try to get his daddy when we know that ain't going to happen.
Wait, hold on. Someone actually said on a TV show that Atlanta should take Bronny number 1 to get LeBron.
Yes. They've been talking about how the Utah Jazz might throw their hat into the paper towel sweepstakes so that they can try to get LeBron.
LeBron is not going to any of these. He's not leaving LA. Like there's no, for someone who is over 40, I'm not moving unless I get a really, 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 really good job. But I'm not moving just so I can work with Mike. I'm not moving to San Antonio just so me and Mike can work in the same office. Because what if he gets another job? It's like that's not how it works. And I don't think that they really think they could just do something as simple as drafting Bronny and LeBron's going to come running. Like, when is he going to come? He's about to sign like a 3-year extension in LA. So you're going to get him at 42? Or maybe at 41, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a no trade clause. Even if he doesn't now, I'm pretty sure he'll put one in, or he'll have the leverage to say, I'm not going to go here.
Right.
Or if you try to trade him and retire, he doesn't want to go out unceremoniously, and you wouldn't want to be the organization that made him do it.
Right. But all it is another guys so we can talk about his dad because his dad ain't in the playoffs anymore. You know what I mean? Like, and like a lot of this is centered on that because Scottie Pippen got a son in the league that averaged 12.9 points this season on an NBA roster. And I ain't heard nothing about him. He averaged 20 points in college. Whereas no knock to Bronny, because, you know, he had the condition, you know, so much respect to him for even stepping on the court this year. But in the end, we're talking about a guy that barely averaged 5 points, and that's me rounding up. You know what I mean? So like, what are we doing? The reason why people don't one of the reasons that people don't know who a lot of these players are is because the media is fixated to talk about this one person.
Yeah, that's because the media is selling you something.
Exactly.
We can have these conversations in group chats. We can have them on the show. You can have them on other podcasts where guys like us have their own personal podcasts with their group of friends. You can kind of talk about whatever you want. But for some reason, television seems to be short-sighted to the point where they want clickbait. So they'll talk about like the whole NFL, NBA player thing. That's been on like multiple shows and multiple clips. And I think Austin Rivers went live a couple of times to go after someone who said, I'm like, this is a moot conversation. It's not even a real conversation. There's no merit to it. There's no bearing. There's no bounce. There's no logic to the conversation. It's just random banter. Well, because it moved the needle for 72 hours, that's the conversation. Clingan and Zach Edey's athleticism doesn't move the TV needle. You and I will talk about it. I'll talk about why can't the guy who was the best player in college basketball, which is essentially the minor league to the NBA, the pipeline to the NBA. So the best guy in your pipeline for 2 years can't get a job in the league doesn't make any sense. If there was a guy in the minor leagues hitting 50 home runs a year, but he wasn't fast, It's like, yeah, but he's hitting 50 home runs. You don't need to be fast if you hit 50 home runs. Come up here and hit 35. Like, I don't need you to steal bases. I need you to hit. Zach Edey, I don't need you to defend AD on the perimeter. You'll just defend the other guy on the block. You can defend Rudy Gobert. You can beat Rudy Gobert. You know, like you have to figure out other ways, but that conversation doesn't move the needle the way a Bronny conversation does, because like you said, you can lump in LeBron, you can lump in LA, you can lump in championships, you can lump in Jordan, you can lump in, you know, just all the popular headlining names of the sport. Whereas if you talk about Reed Shepard out of Kentucky, you only can talk about him, and maybe you could talk about Calipari, or you could talk about the fact that they have two guys that are projected to go in the top 4 and they lost in the first round. That's a conversation you and I would have. But I don't know if Perk and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe are having that conversation if Perk is invited on First Take. Because it just doesn't move the needle. Like you said, Perk beat you to this point because that conversation moves the needle. Even though there is an NBA playoff going on right now, that's dope. It's probably one of the best playoff runs we've seen in recent history, where we don't know who's going to win it.
Yeah, one of these new stars about to get a title.
Yeah, one of these teams, or Boston might get their 18th ring, but this group of stars about to get their first one. So that conversation requires a little bit more research, a little bit more intrinsic buy-in to the conversation, whereas a conversation about Bronny is just all your opinion. You just kind of say whatever.
I just figure ESPN has a significant college basketball contract, so I would figure that would give you a chance to focus on one of your entities, as these players move on to the NBA. I mean, just like we talk about how the WNBA and women's basketball in general is deserving of more attention. Like it behooves you potentially, to talk about some of this stuff because you own those contracts too.
Yeah, but the WNBA, they already do it properly. The women's national championship game was April. The NBA draft was, I think, the WNBA draft was like that Friday. They started preseason games 2 weeks later, and they're already playing regular season games. So they capitalized on like the buzz in a positive way. They didn't have to generate it. It was like Caitlin Clark is iconic, Angel Reese, national championship, iconic. Cameron Brink went to Stanford, a big school. Cardosa out of South Carolina won a national championship. So it was like they are capitalized on this. They're moving games from 4,000 seat arenas to 17,000 seats, and they're selling them out. They outsold the Indiana Fever, outsold the Pacers in the playoff run against the Knicks. So they're properly capitalizing on it. But the conversation, the ESPN can have conversations about that. We're kind of getting this information through memes and the fact that we're having these conversations in our groups. But I don't see many segments on a lot of these shows that talk about strictly the impact of having this new wave of popular player. Whereas I think Bronny they're trying to mold him into that. They're trying to mold the conversation around him into this Caitlin Clark-esque kind of Angel Reese-esque kind of impact. And it might not be the case. So they're just kind of going vicariously through Bronny to get to LeBron to generate this conversation. Ultimately, I think he should be on an NBA roster, considering that if you look at some of the guys who are getting minutes, and there's 15 dudes on most of these benches any given night. So many guys are injured. There's no reason why he can't fill in and use athleticism. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But
yeah, that's what you're. I mean, I know Clutch and his daddy don't want to consider this, but that's what your two-way contract is for.
Yeah, and whatever contract he gets on, he'll get his Thanasis on, and he'll just stay on the roster. Whatever roster that is, he'll stay on it because you don't want to be the GM that sends Bronny down. And maybe that's one thing that people don't want to get involved with. You send Bronny down to the G League or you cut him, and now you can't get any clutch athletes. You or any of your friends.
Pay for play, baby. Pay for
Hey,
play.
listen, a lot of people have been using that leverage for a long time. I'm glad that this potential an opportunity, but like I said, give them a shot.
Right. So as I mentioned in the intro, Mr. Logical, said that the Timberwolves was going to pull this off. I was a little late to the party. I held on to Denver in 7. Felt pretty good as they were up by 20 last night.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota said, "No mas.
That was a
Your
strange.
time is
It was one
up.
of the
Our
strangest
time is
games I've ever
now."
seen. It was.
Yeah.
It was a strange. It. I know we talked about gambling and everything else. I don't know. It looked like Denver forgot how much time was left in the game. Like they thought it was like they thought when it went up 20, it was like that point threshold from an All-Star game. Like, yo, when we get to 80 points, whoever got the most points combined 80, because it just seemed like Jamal Murray just disappeared. I don't think he went to the bench. I know Jokic, they kept mentioning it over and over and over. Reggie Miller kept saying over and over in the podcast that he only rested for 1 minute and he played the whole second half. I don't know why they didn't get him a break. Like I text you, once they got up 20, I'm sitting them down because unless you're really trying to blow them out, because it looked like Minnesota was leaning that way because they had 38 points in the second half. Like this was like early in the third, the score was 58-38. It was like that's what Indiana had in the first quarter against the Knicks. So it was like maybe he thought he can stretch it to 30, 24, 26, maybe 30, and then start kind of pulling guys. And then they got the 15, and then Cat hit a 3, got it to 12. And when it got down to 12, it was too late. You couldn't take Jokic out and get him a breather. And then they just kept trapping him. And then Jokic started playing a little bit more aggressive, especially in the fourth. And I was noticing like certain possessions, like when Rudy Gobert hit that fall away.
Yeah, you knew it was over.
When that went in, I was like, this is a wrap.
It reminded me of that 3 that Jokic hit over AD last year.
Oh yeah, when he was just like
at the end of the quarter, yeah. Like you know
what am I gonna do? So when that went in, I put my Pinot Grigio down. I stood up and I applauded. I was like, these dudes really just came back. But yeah, Jokic looked gassed.
Yeah, I knew it was over. Once Minnesota, I think Anthony Edwards hit a 3.
Made it 67, 66. I think it was
no, before that. It was still third quarter. I want to say the 3 made it 61-57. It was nearing the end of the third, and I was just like, "Ooh, this is over." Because like you said, Jokic just had that look. Because it's not even about being tired as far as like he's out of shape or he's fatigued but him and Jamal Murray were doing a lot of lifting last night. So
they had 70 points. I think they had 69 or 70
points. I got
points.
that. Yeah, so they had 69. Denver scored 90 points. Jamal Murray and Jokic had 69 of that. They took 55 shots. The rest of the Nuggets combined took 28 shots. Aaron Gordon only took 5 shots. So I don't know if the game plan was just you guys are our stars, bring it home. But there came a point where Michael Porter, can you hit a shot?
I was calling his shot off all night. Like every time he put one up, I was watching on TV and I was like if this doesn't go in, because he had some old wide open looks. And when those didn't drop, I was like, okay, Minnesota has a chance. But this was early in the game, 12, 10, 13, right. 10, early in the game. But his shot wasn't falling. I'm like, okay, well, Minnesota going to run. And then his shot wasn't falling. And then when the lead started expanding, I was like, these dudes really blew a 2-0 series lead. They about to lose in 7. And but then, like I said, no one else could do anything. Like I said, you mentioned it before. Like you had concerns about their bench, and my concern was from the Lakers series was that they were behind for 7 out of 10.
Yeah, and I think that plays into the fatigue because they were coming back from 20 down multiple times.
They had to play a shorter rotation. They couldn't get anybody in, and they were just winning games off Jamal Murray. Like he won 2 games at the buzzer, but they played the whole game. And like I said in Game 7, like I said, I don't think he was like gassed because he was out of shape. It's just that they put when they had Gobert defending him, even though he was killing him, it's still a big body you got to push
Right.
around.
Right.
Gobert's like people make it seem like these NBA players. Like I said, I talk about it all the time. I've never been NBA quality level athleticism whatsoever, but this dude's 7'2", 200 something pounds. And now Jokic has to lug his 6'11", 7-foot frame up and down the court and then run it into multiple guys who are 6'10" to 7'1", 7'2". That weighs on you. Even if he's making the shots, it's like they're running right back at him. So he can't even and then, like I said, then he wasn't getting any breaks. There was way less challenges in his game, so I like that. So it wasn't a lot of those intermittent breaks where guys were getting a 2-3 minute break because they were challenging stuff a lot. So I think he just was out there gas. I don't know if Jamal Murray, I'm trying to think if he made any kind of impact plays in the third and fourth, and I don't recall.
He
From the
made
time they got to
negative
20,
impact. He made negative impact plays because off the top of my head, I can think of 3 plays where he just straight up got stripped.
Yeah, he got stripped. He got stripped because Ant, I think he went 6 for 24.
He
had
did
3
Apparently,
wide
that's
open
the key
dunks.
to winning a playoff game is go 6 for 24.
Shout out to Kobe Bean Bryant Game 7 against the Celtics. Pass the ball to Artest. Cat was playing like it felt as if the depth and the rotations that Minnesota was putting on the floor, those guys just felt like, yo, the ball in my hand is my moment. Naz Reid was getting that pass in the corner. This is my moment. He's open at the top of the key. This is my moment. What's the other guy?
McDaniels, yeah.
James McDaniels, like he was taking it to Jamal Murray because I think Jamal Murray is like 6'2" or 6'3".
They say he's 6'4", but I don't believe it.
Yeah, so I think if you are a 6'4", 6'5" guy, and you know you got a little bit of size on him, because I noticed that happened back in the bubble in the Utah series. Like they started kind of just going at his chest. He still was a great scorer, but he might not be that big and kind of wear him down. I don't know how much the calf affected him, but he still was playing with the sleeve. But he scored big in the first half. Minnesota, I don't know if they did anything different defensively. It just felt as if the ball was just going through Jokic. And then as they were getting closer, like you said, that 61-57.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, yo, if they get a stop and they can get this to 2, if they can get this to 1 possession, I just kept thinking, like, if they get this to 1 possession game, it's like, I was watching, like, I didn't leave my TV. I was sitting there the whole time. And I'm like, am I missing something? Like, how did this happen? Because I don't remember a barrage of threes. I don't remember a bunch of turnovers.
That's what it was. They were stripping Jamal Murray.
They stripped Jamal Murray. They stripped Jokic at the top. But I think that was more in the fourth.
And what got me about it was Jokic took literally 10 3-pointers. So chalk that up to fatigue, probably, or just not wanting to bang, like I need a breather.
I think what he was trying to do, I felt like he started taking those threes when the lead got cut. Because I saw one possession, because Jokic, like I said, you can't speed him up. That's one of the things we talked about, like why he's so great at what he does. Like you can't speed him up.
Right.
That when it was like 60, I think when Ant hit the 3 to make it 67, 66, and I believe early in the fourth, when it was going back and forth, Jokic got the ball on like the right wing and immediately went into like a hard power dribble, shoulder in the cat. Like he just got really aggressive for like 4 or 5 possessions in a row. And I'm like, okay, he's feeling I gotta press, not necessarily press recklessly, but I gotta be more aggressive. Like, so like Luka when
there's a certain pressure that comes with being the champion as well. Game 7 was on your home floor.
It looked like he was like it looked like that last lap of your PT test.
Yeah.
Like you get the time and you probably could have been running this hard the whole time, but like this your last lap, you just you extend it, you just run a little harder. It felt like he did that early in the fourth. But Minnesota's defense, they let them be a little handsy. They were getting a lot of strips. They were getting a lot of steals. I think at one point Denver had like 10 possessions in a row with like missed shots or either turnovers or missed shots, like
Well, I
10
know
possessions in a row.
at one point in the third quarter, they were 3 for 14. You know, not only that, but I think that Minnesota they just had more legs. They just, like you said, they played more players. So therefore, Denver had to work extra hard. And then Jokic is already a lumbering dude to begin with. He's not some athletic freak. So, you know, those miles add up, I think. You know what I mean? But that's no excuse. Minnesota just flat out beat them, you know. But what I was concerned about, or what I was thinking about, was coming into the playoffs or a little bit earlier this season, Denver was talking about Peyton Watson and how Bruce Brown wasn't going to be as big a loss as everybody thought he was going to be because of Peyton Watson. And I'm like, at the very least, Peyton Watson gives you something different, because one of Minnesota's advantages was their athleticism. They don't have anybody outside of Denver, doesn't have anybody outside of Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown that play regularly that have some form of athleticism. You know,
That
everybody else is just
are a mismatch strictly because of their athleticism.
right.
Yeah.
Everybody else is either a good shooter, they come off screens, they get handoffs from Jokic, they create angles, you know, but none of them blow you away with their speed or anything like that. So Peyton Watson is the one dude on the roster that can actually jump out the gym.
I think they had Justin Holiday, one of the Holiday brothers.
Yeah, they got Justin Holiday. Yeah.
I don't listen, I've never claimed to be a great coach. I mean, I do talk a lot saying I would be a coach. I think at some point you got to just.
They're on the roster, trust them.
Exactly. Like the owners, like, yo, I'm cutting checks for all of these dudes. You put them out there game 1, you put them out there game 2, you put them out there game 4. Why? Who? I'm trying to think, like, who do they put on the floor for Jokic? I'm really drawing a blank.
They usually just move Aaron Gordon over because the backup is DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah, you're not gonna put him out there.
Yeah, I mean, but you could. You know, say he's got 18 fouls, and that was the other problem, was Denver put Minnesota in the bonus with 8.5 minutes left in the game.
Because I think guys were tired.
They were tired. Yeah.
When you're tired, you don't slide your feet. Jokic had a couple of bad fouls. He was like I said, he was defending. I think he was defending Gobert 30 feet from the rim.
Why?
And then Gobert went around him and he grabbed him. I'm like, let him go to the hoop. I'd rather him go to the hoop and try to float it or dunk it versus you grab it, because he grabbed Jokic. Jokic reached for him and grabbed him at like outside the 3-point line. Like Rudy had a couple of dribbles. So I'm like, man, let him go to the paint and see if he can get over Aaron Gordon or control the ball in the air.
Bring somebody over and try to strip him or something at the very least.
Like 2 guys jumped into the paint. I can't remember which 2 guys it were, but I'm pretty sure it was like Aaron Gordon and maybe like KCP. But there were guys that were going to meet him in the paint, not at the rim, but like they would have met him at the free throw line, because he was at the 3-point line dribbling the ball. Like, you don't want Rudy Gobert dribbling the ball from the 3-point. Let him go. And it just was like that tired, I blew this defense because he ran out so aggressively that he just reached out and grabbed him. But Minnesota took it. Like they won 3 games.
And I want to give credit. I want to give credit to Tim Connolly, you know, the GM for the Timberwolves, because if we remember, he's the one that put the Nuggets together in the first place. And now he put together Voltron to take the Nuggets out. And here we are.
Shout out to Mike Conley, though.
Shout out to Mike Conley.
Mike Conley hit a 3. He hit one of those deflator threes. It was akin to the Gobert fadeaway because he's left-handed, so he pump faked and like kind of wiggled to the side and like shot a like little left-handed 3, and that went in. And you could see like some of the
air just come out the arena. Yeah, it looked like that. It felt like Derek Fisher 0.4.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's what it felt like. You know what I'm saying? But then on Saturday night, you know, I told everybody OKC was going down in 6. It should have been 5. But you know what I'm saying? I'll take what I can get. You know, the Mavs come through. And this was my takeaway. Let me know how you feel about this.
All right.
I think we saw the difference between Luka and SGA. So SGA had the better series, like just looking at numbers, you know, how many points he scored, all that good stuff. But I think the difference is I saw SGA can always get SGA going, but the team wasn't necessarily feeding off of his action. Whereas the Mavericks sometimes just fed off of Luka's presence.
But I
And Luka
think that's
being
how
there.
you have to play when you play with Luka. I think that's the difference. When you're OKC, they were so young, they were playing fast, they were playing deep. I
Mhm.
think those guys were just so used to the ball moving around and getting up shots, not necessarily getting their energy vicariously through SGA. I think they were just getting their energy through good basketball. They just weren't like it just was a couple of games where they weren't knocking down shots. Like the
Right.
game 4 that they won, they started off it was like 1 for 10 or something like that. I think they missed like 8 or 9 in a row, but I think their 10th three they made. So game 2 was the same way. Game 1, OKC, when they routed Dallas, it was because that ball was moving and everybody was in. Isaiah Joe, both Jalen Williams was in there. Dort was hitting threes. Chet was hitting threes. Giddy was on the floor doing his thing. Obviously, SGA was getting points. So everybody was just kind of feeling it. It was their home game. But then game 2, when the shot wasn't falling, I don't think their game plan is let's work the offense through Shea versus Shea being the offense, where Dallas, the offense always works through Luka. Whether they score 90 points or 119 points, it goes through Luka. Even Kyrie kind of plays that role. Like if Luka's having an off night, like he was having in the LA series a couple times, then Kyrie knows to do. He does the same thing as Luka, where he's not a traditional point guard. He just draws attention. You got to be ready to shoot. So they're
Right.
just two versions of the same player, just different sizes. So if Luka's on the floor and he's not effective, Kyrie can do the same thing. So PJ Washington can stand in that same corner when Kyrie has the ball as when Luka has the ball. I think that's the difference.
So you know I gotta ask, right? If you're a referee, you making that call?
I was out because I was like out all weekend, just kind of just doing family stuff. So I missed it, but I saw the replay. And as soon as I saw it, I thought about what you would say if I said, you can't make that call. But if it was the reverse where I think just to keep it simple, just to stay true to my logic, you got to make the call. SGA, you can't go for the block. You can't risk it. Just jump like the boy used to do for Boston. Cornette when he just jumped both arms straight in the air, so he didn't foul. You just got
Just be there.
you can't risk a foul. If he hits that shot, let him hit it. Get your hands in his face, scream at him, yell something at him, make a buzzer sound like it's a shot clock. Whatever you got to do, don't land in his space. Don't hit his arm. Like it just you. Sometimes you gotta live and die with it. I don't like referees making those kind of calls, but if I was a fan of either team and it was either way, if somebody fouled SGA on the other end, I'd want it called. So if he fouled PJ Washington on the other end, I want it called all the same. I know I'm hoping referees don't want to be a part of the game, but sometimes it's like that. Like my son had a youth their freshman basketball game, their last game. The score was they were up 2.
Uh-huh.
Other team got the ball, shot at 3, missed it, scrambled for the rebound. Their big man got the rebound, puts it up, whistle, buzzer was simultaneous. So our kids think the game is over. They go high fiving. The ref is like, no, he got a foul. So now he puts this young man on the free throw line by himself. He got knocked down these 2 free throws. He just missed like 2 in a row before. And he missed the first one, so obviously the game's over because you can't get any more points. But it's like in that scramble session, you call a foul with as the buzzer's going off. That's a little whack. But that's youth basketball. That's freshman basketball. In the NBA, you can't put yourself in a position where the refs can impact the game like that.
So where does OKC go from here? Because I was looking at it, and Gordon Hayward, played 15 minutes the whole series. So Kenrich Williams, same thing. Gordon Hayward's a free agent though, so nothing to worry about there. But I know at the trade deadline there were some people thinking, I wasn't one of those people, but there were some people thinking that OKC should have went out and got Lauri Markkanen. Now, while I do think that he's a perfect fit for OKC, I think that OKC had to see what was going on, check the temperature. I don't think you need to overreact.
Yeah, I don't think they need to do much. I think one player that might be tantalizing on the open market, I don't know his contract situation. I think Josh Giddey. I think he kind of showed in this series that he might be a bit expendable. Not because I think he played poorly. I just think that other guys can do what he does. And I'm not sure how much better he gets. I know he had a rough
shooting too while doing it.
Yeah, I know he had a rough year, a lot of personal things going on, but I mean, if there is a team that's willing,
never mind.
If there's a team that's willing to make a move with you, I think that's probably the only piece. Obviously, you're gonna let Gordon Hayward go. That was a good little mid-season acquisition.
Yeah, let the money come off the books.
Yeah, he's gonna go. But yeah, Josh Giddey's probably the only guy I can think. If you ran it back with the same squad, I wouldn't be like appalled. I don't think teams need to just dismantle because you lose. Like I think Denver might be one of those teams that Denver might need to get some players for the bench.
Denver might need a Gordon Hayward.
A Gordon Hayward might be a good guy for them, unless I don't know how much his age has impacted him. But a guy like that, or even like a Lauri Markkanen, if they can make a move like that. But I think OKC can just do what Minnesota did: take your loss, regroup, come back. I mean, you're the number one seed. You just ran into a matchup problem. And that's just, like I said, it's the same thing happened with Denver. It's like, yeah, you had the 20-point collapse and some guys didn't perform. And there's reasons for, like you said, we talk about the bench. But sometimes it's just a matter of like you just ran up against a team that, for 2 games to get up 2-1.
Yeah.
That was just like they had like 2 very good back-to-back games and they figured something out. And then the rest of the series was a battle that you just came out short. I mean, by a point.
Yeah, here's my moment. I've always wanted to say this. Denver just ran into a buzzsaw.
Oh God!
I've always wanted to say that. But something that I found interesting about this OKC Dallas series, right? Total points in the series: Dallas 636, OKC 636. It was that close.
Yeah.
It was that close. So OKC has no reason to hang their head. They have no reason to overreact. They have the coach, I think. They have the star.
You got the coach, you got the MVP.
You got Chet.
You have a like your support, your role, not your role, your support player to your star. Yeah, the supporting cast. You got the defender. Just don't go do anything crazy like bringing in somebody like
Kevin Durant.
Like trying to bring Durant back or trying to bring Russ back or trying to bring a guy like Paul or like Pat Bev or something like that. Like right now, keep your team young, let them grow together, and take your lumps. Like we see what it's like. It's not to get it this far in the playoffs. Like I said, they were the youngest team in NBA history to win a second round playoff game, and they were a few possessions realistically from the momentum shifting in game 2, because I think they clawed their way back in game 2, even though they're shooting poorly, and then Luka kind of caught fire and Kyrie started giving a little bit of points, but they could have easily gone into Dallas up 2-0. So they'd have been a different position. Let's see if they were like I said, we talked about this last week. I don't think their youth came out via mistakes. I think it just their youthful team that lost. I don't think they were a youthful team. It wasn't like silly technical fouls. It wasn't flagrants. It wasn't just bad. They didn't get blown out. They didn't get blown off the floor in every loss. So I think they were just a young team that lost to a team with a little bit more experience. I don't think their youth was the reason that they lost.
So pushing it forward, Western Conference Finals, who you got?
I got Minnesota in 6.
Okay.
I don't say I'm tempted to say 5, but it just when teams are this good, especially those two teams, I think they're evenly matched. Ant already talked about Kyrie was going to be his matchup. He said in the post game interview. I like them for the same reason. I like them against Dallas for the same reason I like them against Denver. Just depth, athleticism, tenacity, and then size. Naz Reid, Cat, and Gobert, if you wanted to. I'm not sure if they would do this, but you can play all three of those guys at the same time because of what your two shooting big men give you. Like you can go Mike Conley, Ant, Naz Reid, Gobert, Cat if you wanted to. Because they give you, like, you have two shooting big men, you still got the defense, you still got the perimeter defense. I'm not sure if Naz Reid can really guard Luka, but I think the size and making him play over that length, maybe that's an attribute. But granted, I'm saying you don't have to put that lineup out there.
Right.
But the fact that they had that available to them, even in Game 7, Vince was still getting Ant on the bench, getting him a rest. And he was on the bench, and they talk about Ant.
He was on the bench at critical points.
He was on the bench getting his rest, keeping it because they know he plays a lot of energy. Then he came back in. He locked Jamal Murray down, like he said. He had him in handcuffs. He said it. Said to somebody in the hallway, like I had him in handcuffs all fourth quarter. But he was telling like McDaniels and what's the other guy with the hyphenated name? I keep forgetting it.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
He was telling him, like, listen, they gonna keep
just
doubling
gonna forget
me.
SGA cousin like that.
Yo, they got a lot of names. He's like, they're gonna keep doubling me. You got to keep shooting. You got to be ready to shoot. And this is why, like, he was on the bench getting his rest. So, sometimes stars in Game 7, we've seen older stars not talk on the bench. We've seen it with LeBron a lot of times. Like, he'll go to the bench and he'll kind of like lock in. And we've seen guys that just really go to the bench and don't really, move the needle for their team. Well, he was talking to this guy like, listen, they're going to keep doubling me. You got to keep shooting. And guys started knocking down threes. I think people believe in him. And that, like I said, the youth is maybe they're so naive to the fact that they shouldn't be here. Like one of the reporters asked him a question, like, do you think you guys should have gotten this much success without losing?
That was Vinny Goodwill, yep.
And he was like, yeah, we lost last year. He was like, we lost the year before that.
How much y'all want us to lose?
Cat said, shit, we've been losing for 20 years. Like, how much losing you want us to do? And that's like, I think they've gotten to the point where it's like, yeah, we can win. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to stop Luka. But if these other guys can harass the role players, we see Tim Hardaway Jr. hasn't really made an appearance in the playoffs to this point.
Bingo.
So if you can harass these guys, these spot up shooters, then sky's the limit.
Yeah, I got Minnesota at 6. I actually want to say 5.
Me too. I do want to say 5, but I got to watch the game. I got to see how it matches up.
Yeah, Luka did average 37 and 11 against Minnesota this year. But a couple of things that I don't know if Dallas can count on this series is that
I think Minnesota still went 3-1 though.
Yeah, but I think Kyrie missed 2 of those games, and there was
it was before the trade deadline as well. So this is a whole new team, so you can't take that into account.
Right. But what I'm not counting on is PJ Washington shooting 47% from 3 in this series. I'm not counting on that. Derek Jones, I'm not counting on Derek Jones to keep the hot hand that he had the last 3 games against OKC. the best games of his career. Kyrie's going to have to step it up and be more of the Kyrie that we know for Dallas to win this series. Maxi Kleber, what's his status? That gives Dallas another big body to combat Minnesota's Giants. I do like Gafford and Lively. They have very specific jobs in this series. Grab rebounds, don't get in foul trouble. That's their job, and that's their assignment for this series.
How's Lucas? Can Cat get them in foul trouble, or does Cat
or can Cat get in foul trouble? Right.
Luckily for Cat, he won't have to guard anyone who's trying to score.
Right. And then
he's not going to guard Luka. Gafford's not going to get the ball with the intent of scoring. Lively's going to get the ball with the intent of scoring. So if he's guarding any one of those guys, he should be 2 fouls per half at the most. If that's his defensive assignment.
And what's the status of Luka's knee?
How many days they get?
Well, so they get some days. They don't play until Wednesday.
So Saturday was his last game.
Yep. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So 4 days rest. So it could be the Jamal Murray thing where they had the long break in between games 2 and 3. Maybe Luka comes out refreshed, but it goes every other day for the rest of the series. So that's where it's going to be. Remember, I brought up the Knicks, which we'll just go there. I brought up the Knicks. And what I had said was, when we were talking last time, was the Knicks better win this in 5. Because the longer this series goes, Indiana's going to have a great chance to win this series because the Knicks are just going to run out of bodies. And lo and behold, they get down by 6. Jalen Brunson fractures his hand. Anunoby tried to give it a go. He hit his 2 shots, but only played 5 minutes. He probably shouldn't have been out there anyway. The Knicks have no reason to hang their heads. Indiana just is a fast team. The question that I have, because I know we got into like the thing about, is Thibodeau playing his players too much, all that kind of stuff like that. But scrapping that part of it. The Knicks didn't have to try to play helter-skelter with the Pacers. They didn't have to let Indiana dictate the pace.
Well, I think they felt that the lack of defense for Indiana, they could exploit. But we talk about this all the time. If you give these guys open looks and they start knocking them down, then when you start contesting it, it's irrelevant. Like when guys go for 50, 60, 70 points, they're not shooting 25 open shots. They're shooting contested shots. They're shooting the Rudy Gobert fall away. Is just tonight is their night. And for some reason in the Garden, Indiana, it was their night. Like I said, when I showed you a screenshot, they were shooting 80%.
Yeah, they finished 67%.
67%. So they were shooting 76% in the first half. Like that's 7.5 out of 10 shots. A guy, you could win. I think Zion Williamson shoots like 61%, but he shoots pretty much at the rim. I think Shaq was one of those guys that was like 61, 62% around the rim. But that's around the rim. You have a whole team of guys shooting. They shot how many? They shot like, I think they made like 57% of their threes. It's just when that shot start falling, and when the star gets going, the role player knows that, oh, Siakam's on one, Halliburton's on one. When this ball comes to me, I'm going to fire it off, because if we get the offensive rebound, now we'll work it back through them. Whereas when the score is like tight and it's 48-48 early in the third because it's a tight game, I don't know if you get TJ McConnell taking shots in the lane or taking that three. He might have to move the ball, get it to Siakam, get it to Halliburton to get them going.
Looks like they went 13 of 24 from 3.
Yeah, 57. Yeah.
Yeah, and
50%.
And not only that, but to your point, back to the SGA thing for a second. Halliburton wants to set you up. You know what I mean? Like, he just can shoot, but he wants to be the facilitator. He wants to be that CP3 kind of guy, but he just can shoot it very well from three. Whereas SGA isn't necessarily a point guard in that way. So, like I said, he's going to get his, and it's dependent on you getting good looks from the defense collapsing on him, whereas Halliburton is setting out to set you up. And that's what he did to the Knicks. Shout out to Ben Shepherd. Shot 46% from three in this series. He didn't play very much, but he made use of the minutes that he got. Aaron Nesmith, I think it was 8 for 8 yesterday against the Knicks.
Like 23 points or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Knicks, same thing that we said about OKC. I don't think the Knicks need to overreact. They don't need to do anything drastic. You can't depend on Julius Randle, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Julius Randle.
OG Anunoby's a free agent, so now I'm going into my Mr. Logical bag for a second.
It's a great bag.
Yeah, I gotta go into my Mr. Logical bag. See, this is the thing about Sports Reports Disordered, right? I wouldn't even have had this thought if I didn't talk to you so much. But I was thinking to myself, so OG Anunoby's a free agent. They were something like 30-5 coming into the playoff or coming into this series when he played. Did he want to play yesterday? Like, did he? He came out, he played the 5 minutes, hit his 2 shots. I don't know if that was he felt pressured to play. Is there something at play here to where him stepping onto the court yesterday hurts the Knicks' chances of keeping him in the offseason?
Interesting question. I think because it's game 7. Because it's game 7, you got to try. People were giving Donovan Mitchell some heat because he didn't play. But if we think back to Kevin Durant and that finals against Toronto, he was getting a lot of heat for not playing because I think it was like 4 weeks from the time he got injured to the time it was this game 3 of 4 of the NBA Finals by the time he came back?
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he plays I think it was like less than 15 minutes before he blows his Achilles out and he misses all of next year. So guys have to weigh that. Sometimes you got to protect yourself from the organization if the organization is not looking out for you. Like, hey, we know it's game 7, but you were hobbled yesterday. How much better did your hamstring get in the last 19 hours? Probably not that much better. But as a guy who plays in that environment, and like I say, everyone loved the Knicks. So him being in that team, fighting for potential to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, if he felt like he can go, he go. Same thing AD did a couple years ago, I believe, against Phoenix when he had the groin issue. And he went and said he's moving well. And then he went for 1 block and rebound and it was like, yeah,
all over.
I'm done. But I think you'd rather go out there, and I won't say hurt yourself worse, but you'd rather go out there and be like, yeah, I can't go, versus watching them lose 130 to 109. And then the next morning you wake up and you think to yourself, I probably could have went yesterday.
Right.
So, so I don't think it hurts. I think they have a great chance of keeping him. Like I said, I don't know the Julius Randle contract. I don't know what his market looks like. Like I said, I think this playoff run might have allowed teams to see this is what our future looks like. And it's the guys in this locker room, or 1 or 2 guys don't need to be in this locker room. Like if you think about Milwaukee, I'm pretty sure they're going to get rid of Pat Bev. They'll probably get rid of some of those guys because this playoff run let us know all of these guys can't come back next year.
Yeah, so Julius Randle
might be in that position.
So Julius Randle signed a 4-year, $117 million contract. He's a free agent in 2026.
That's a tradable contract.
It
4
is.
years, 117. Was it 29 and a half a year?
And if you want a tank, he's your guy.
Is that a Charlotte move? The Charlotte move? I don't know. I doubt you moved them.
Nah, not with the new head coach. But yeah.
is it a Miami move? Does Miami bring in a guy that can stretch the floor, big play, rebound, can fit in the Heat culture?
Maybe. I think the Heat might try to make a play for Donovan Mitchell, though.
I don't know why Donovan Mitchell's not happy in Cleveland, and I don't know why
Well, he said
Cleveland's not
he
happy
is.
with Bickerstaff.
He
Well, you
said he
got to say
is.
it publicly because you don't want to ruin your trade value.
Well, the problem is that a lot of these dudes are messing up our perception of him because they usually sign the contract and then within that next year, they're like, get me out of here. So, like, I don't know if this is one of those situations because I was listening to a podcast earlier and they asked the question, like, if you're Cleveland, would you rather max Donovan Mitchell or would you rather trade Mitchell and keep Garland?
That depends on who's your trade partner.
Yeah, because I know Dan Gilbert's come out and said that he's not trading with the Lakers.
Yeah, he won't do anything to help LeBron. Even though LeBron chip, that Benedict Arnold stuff is
real.
There
you go. We just solved it. He might draft Bronny.
Just to send him to the G League. He's probably only that would be tough. It'd be silly and it'd be a terrible thing to do, but we've seen him do something terrible.
It ain't too late to go back to college.
If I'm trading Donovan Mitchell, I want a bigger combo guard in return, and I don't know if there's many guys on the market that you can get. Like maybe a Brooklyn deal. Maybe Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson get traded together again, like they got traded from Phoenix to Brooklyn. Maybe that's a deal. I don't know how the money works out. But if I'm going to run with Garland, who's like 6'1", 6 foot, maybe. I got to get a bigger guard back. Like I can't trade to Miami for Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Like I can't. Like I'm not going to have this.
Well, something that I saw was
college size basketball team in the NBA. I got to get a bigger guard or a bigger forward in return.
Something I saw was Hero, Hawkins, and there was another piece with a pick.
Well, but you got to play Garland and Hero at the same time.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
unless you want to put Hero in that Jamal Crawford role.
That's pick and roll all day.
Yeah. But with all that being said, Mr. Logical, tomorrow night from the TD Bank Garden, Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. What say you?
Boston wins Game 1, 117-90.
Okay.
Like I said, it's hard to go sweep. So, like I said, I heard you say it earlier, my whole adage of Boston's going to give you one. Boston's going to give you one of those games where, like I said, they went 8 for 35 against Cleveland that one game. They had the game against Miami where they knocked down 23 threes. It's just that, is that going to be game 3 or game 2? Definitely, it won't be game 1.
Right.
I think they're going to come out ready to play. We talked about, and people talk about Porzingis not being able to come back. I'm not sure Porzingis.
They don't need him.
Is needed for Indiana because I don't.
Right. They don't need him.
And we talked about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Richard Jefferson said it when their last game against Cleveland. It's like, don't settle for these shots because I feel like Jason Tatum settles for a lot of shots. Jaylen Brown does a little bit better job of shot selection, but. You're bigger than everybody who guards you. I don't think there's a guy that maybe Paul George might be bigger than Tatum, but I don't believe that's the case. They can guard him. I know Kawhi's smaller. Jaylen Brown, I mean, maybe who do you have that can guard him in the East? Maybe if he's guarded by Giannis. There's only a few guys in the league that can guard those two guys that have a size advantage,
right?
A decisive one that gives them an advantage. Because some guys can be bigger, like you could put Portis on Jaylen Brown, and he's bigger, but that size doesn't give him an advantage. He's just bigger.
Right, and he can't keep up laterally.
He can't keep up laterally. So it's like it's not many guys in the league other than Jalen, Garden, Jason Like that's it. Those are the only I think there's only two guys that match up with that skill set and that size combination. So if they stick to the fact that if I get to this 15-foot area and let everybody else shoot threes, if that's the game plan, like listen, you two are gonna attack the paint and get to the free throw line, and you're gonna get us 2 points every single time you get fouled on one of your layup attempts or one of your close jump shots. Then the defense is going to have to adjust whatever defense Indiana decides to play. And then that's when Hauser, Pritchard, Horford, White, Holiday, all these guys, they're going to shoot the threes. You two attack Miles Turner's chest, make him defend you at the rim, get to the free throw line. Everybody else, the 7 other dudes that can shoot threes, you two attack the rim.
You think White America is excited for this TJ McConnell, Peyton Pritchard matchup?
You talking about two of the whitest areas on earth, Indianapolis and Boston? Absolutely.
Yeah. So
on top of that, all American dudes.
Yeah.
All American, homegrown TJ McConnell. I mean, can you get White and Cole House? How's his name?
I'm taking Boston in 6. I think Indiana gets 1 at home, and I think Indiana gets another one off of your lackadaisical Boston attitude. I just don't know where it's going to happen at. I also think that this is going to be known as the Derek White series. This is the series where he's going to make his imprint on offense and defense, especially coming off the not bad, but he didn't have the best series against Cleveland.
This should be a sweep. This absolutely
it should be a
sweep. But like you said, Boston might get one. It wouldn't surprise me if they swept them though.
But of course, the problem is, all their matchups were way back in November and December. So the last time I believe they played was the in-season tournament.
And they knocked them out, yeah.
They knocked them out to get to the championship and all, So, or to get to the semifinal. So, Indiana, I think, has confidence against Boston. Aaron Nesmith played for Boston. Rick Carlisle played for Boston. It's the Larry Bird Bowl. So, there's definitely reasons that Indiana will not roll over. I just don't think that their defense is up to par. They aren't good enough. I know this is back in the bubble. So, so take with it what you will. But Pascal Siakam had his worst series against Boston in the bubble where he only averaged 14 points on 37%. So, and they still have, like you mentioned, Tatum and Brown, long arms that are going to bother him. So it's going to be dependent.
And he's going to have to defend one of them.
Yep, it's going to be dependent on Indiana to knock down shots. The problem is, because I mentioned how these previous games were earlier in the season, one of the reasons that Indiana had such success against Boston earlier in the season was because they had a guy by the name of Buddy Hield. He ain't there anymore. So, yeah, Boston should sweep this series. I'm going to call it 6. I got Minnesota and Boston in the finals. I'm going Minnesota in the finals in 7 with Anthony Edwards as your final MVP.
I'll see how this plays out, but I've already been on record. I still reserve the right to change it. But I think that Jaylen Brown, if Boston makes the NBA finals, like I'm predicting, I think Jaylen Brown will be your MVP because I think Tatum is going to be under some scrutiny and he's going to give you a 15-point game.
All right. Well, here's the question.
Because he's going to shoot 6 step-back threes, and Jaylen Brown is going to just keep attacking the paint and shooting open threes. Because in those games, if we look at these playoff runs, in the games where Tatum will have a good game with everybody else. Everybody will have a good game. Derek White might have a better game than Tatum. But when Boston's having a bad game, Jaylen Brown still has the good game. Tatum doesn't have the good game. And as Kenny Smith says, sometimes you got to pull your leader through the hole. I think in those games, Tatum doesn't have the game. I still think he's uber talented, but I just noticed in his playoff run, in those couple of games, he's only lost 2 games, and even in the games where like other guys are just shining, it's a team collective effort. But I think Jaylen Brown, because I think he takes advantage of his size. I think he's a little bulkier, a little bigger, so I think he's more apt to go into the paint, draw the contact, and get his points that way. Whereas I think Tatum has such a great handle on the ball, and he does have that. He's 6'9", 6'10", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", somewhere in that range. So I think he uses his size to shoot over his defenders, whereas I think Jaylen Brown is more apt to drive into his defenders and shoot closer 2-point shots versus turn around 3-point shots.
So then, with that being said, who wins the Eastern Conference Finals MVP?
Oh, I forgot about that. See, that's going to be tough because, like I said, I think Boston's going to have. I think they're going to have their way with Indiana. I don't think there's going to be any pressure.
Yeah.
So it might be one of those series where Derek White has 3 games where he has 27 points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because remember, a lot of people thought that Caleb Martin was the Eastern Conference MVP, or should have got it over Jimmy Butler last season.
But that was a bit of a little bit of a stretch because I think it was before the series had ended, and it was kind of like neck and neck. And then in the closeout game, Jimmy kind of proved like, yo, this is why I'm it. But yeah, like I said, it could be a situation where, like I said, Derek White can just, he like I said, all these guys have green lights to shoot threes. So if he is knocking down these threes consistently, and say there's blowouts, say they win these first 2 games at home by 15 to 20 points, well, you're probably going to get Tatum a lot more rest than you're going to get Derek White. So Derek White's going to get you 22 to 24 points.
Yeah, and they do own a 55-point win over Indiana this year.
Yeah, so you sit Tatum and Brown, and now you have Derek White out there just running the offense, getting points, getting layups, getting free throws. So after 5 games, he's averaging 22 and a half, 6 or 7 assists, and he plays good defense. And Tatum is just like along for the ride because it was such a brief series. I can see, somebody else sneaking in Andre Iguodala style and getting a Eastern Conference MVP.
I like it. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time, unfortunately, where we must bid you adieu. We will be back on Thursday. We will have both game 1s in the books when we come back on Thursday. Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow. Western Conference Finals starting on Wednesday. Every other day from that point on. So, we will be here. Hopefully you'll be here. Like, review, subscribe, share it with grandma, send us some emails, send us some tweets, send us some DMs, all the good things. It's all free. Remember that. We will never charge you. He is the even kill. The one and only. Don't bring feelings to a fact fight.
I wrote down the scores for game 1. All right, I wrote them down. I'm not gonna say nothing.
Okay.
It's written in pencil, but I won't erase it. So if it hits, I'm gonna show it. I'm not gonna say it yet, though. But I think
all right. Well, that is Mr. Logical, and I am 2-5. Get well soon, Alexander Usyk, and congratulations on becoming the first undisputed heavyweight champion of the world since the year I graduated high school. Jake Paul, you're next. And Mr. Logical, did you know that we got Deontay Wilder on June 1st?
Nope.
Well, there you go. Boxing, do your job or pay me to do it for you.
Send a tweet.
Yes.
That's it. And we'll know. Instagram, do something.
Do something. But thank you again for joining us on Sports Reports Recorded. See you in a few days. We love you. Peace.